Welcome back to the Firebrand Podcast. I'm Maggie Ulmer, and I'm here with
David Watson.
Scott Kisker.
Oh, so enthusiastic today.
We're raring to go.
Raring to go. Well, how's everybody doing?
Great. We're going to
So good.
venture into new territory.
And by new, Scott means things that people don't like to talk about if they don't want people to get real mad at them.
I don't think people get real mad talking about Wesley's rules for voting.
No, not
Probably
about those.
not.
But they get real mad talking about the thing that Wesley was referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about this today. There was a new article that came out in Firebrand. David, what's the title?
It's by Kelly McQuaig, and it's called A Better Way, John Wesley's Advice for Navigating the Storm of an Election Season. You can find it at firebrandmag.com.
Subscribe now.
So, can you summarize the article for us, Davey?
I mean, the article is built around Wesley's 3 rules for voting, and here are the 3 rules. To vote without fee or reward for the person they judged most worthy, to speak no evil of the person they voted against, and to take care their spirits were not sharpened against those that voted on the other side. Those are the 3 rules. Wesley's 3 simple rules.
For political voting.
For political voting. That's right.
Civic voting. Well, those are good rules. And obviously
They're not terrible.
No, they're not terrible. They obviously apply to many of our political circumstances today.
Well, you know, they do. That Wesley, he was a smart guy, but he also probably understood that politics, like today, can tear churches apart or tear communities apart.
Yeah. My husband always likes to say the political season's his least favorite liturgical season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard because, you know, at least in my little church, there are definitely people who will be voting differently in the upcoming election. And yet it's very, you know, people assume everyone thinks like they do to a certain degree, so
Always.
they can be a little bit offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mean, the point is, even if you think somebody is wrong, that doesn't mean that their heart is wrong.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. Yeah. And disagreeing with ideas is not justification for dehumanizing people.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, most people who are voting because they believe genuinely they're voting for the common good.
Right. Yeah.
That the alternative vote would be worse for the commonality of all people. And thus, they're not actually, you know, most people are not actually voting to, as both sides say, destroy democracy. You know what I mean?
No.
Right?
Yeah. They think they're trying to preserve it.
Yes. Everybody thinks this is the last election we will ever have because the other person will destroy democracy. Mm-hmm. And I don't know anybody who's voting for that.
No.
Most people who are voting because they want to preserve what is good in this country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, why do you suppose Wesley felt like he needed to articulate 3 rules for voting, other than one of the what Scott just illuminated for us?
He wanted to break it down and keep it simple. Take it to the street, speak to the people.
Well, agree to disagree. I think he saw it as a soteriological issue. That whatever...
Well, I was getting there, and you cut me off.
I don't think I did, actually. But I think he thinks that if you can gain the whole world and lose your soul, and that would be bad.
That would be
so
bad.
if you lose your sanctification, if you become a hater,
I
Yeah.
love everyone's God.
I know you do, David.
I was on Twitter, the landscape of all things graceful, loving, and reasonable.
I don't understand.
Or it's not Twitter, it's X.
Yes.
Twitter is
It
nicer
will
to
always
say.
be Twitter. Really.
Okay.
It won't, actually. I think you're going to lose that battle over time.
Over time, maybe. But okay. So I was on X and I saw this post by someone who said, now look, I'm just relating a post just because I was struck by the sort of hostility of it, which was this man describing his wife looking out the window and looking at the political signs in the yard of the person who lived across the street from her and said, even if so-and-so wins the election, those people will still live there.
Yeah, so there's this close to where my church is. There's a major road, 751, I think. Anyway, it runs at this point east-west, and so it's a total rural area.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, but there are these two houses across the street from each other,
And they have
one
opposing
is
signs.
It's like Fair Festival Day for Biden Harris on if you're
Well, it would be
driving
Harris Walls.
Harris Walls.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Harris Walls.
Harris Wall. If you're driving west, it's Harris Walls on the left, Trump, Vance. I'll get it right on the right.
Yeah.
So it's just, but I mean, they're not even they're literally across the street. It's not even because in a rural area, people who are across the street, they can be a little distance. These happen to be two houses that are directly across the highway from each other. And they could not put one more sign, flag, or anything else would not fit in these
It became like
rural...
a feud, like a contest.
It is. It's like the
like
Hatfields
Christmas
and
lights.
the McCoys.
I'll show him.
Yeah, you can tell that I don't know who began it, but someone put up one sign and then the other one put up one sign and then there was another and another and another, and suddenly it's like some of the people in my neighborhood who go all out for Halloween, where you're like, or Christmas, could you fit something else in your yard?
We got one of those down the block.
Yeah,
from us.
I know.
Yeah,
So
it's sort of cool though. I mean,
it's a thing. It's not really my aesthetic, but neither is covering my entire lawn in political signs for that matter. So,
Well, what was
I just covered my entire lawn with the "in this house" sign.
Oh gosh,
In
please.
this house,
I just
we
covered my
believe.
entire lawn with weeds.
I think your lawn looks fine. I saw it just the other
It's
day.
green.
It's green.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so fascinating is at the end of the Twitter post was that the neighbor then rejoiced when they saw moving trucks pull up to this person's house. And
How do you know the next person who moves in isn't going to disagree with
this is the thing.
Because they've got a full yard full of whatever political party they are. So that whoever is looking at the house is going to be like, oh no. If they're on the other side, they're going to be like, not buying that.
Right. So that's
I don't want those people as my neighbor.
That's the thing. It's like, one of the things I really like about Wesley's rules for voting is that it reminds you that God calls us to a character that is not rooted in temporal things. Like you're saying, Scott, he thinks this is a soteriological issue. But also, I just don't understand how any one person can afford to write off anyone they disagree with. Where would you be? You'd be alone. I mean, maybe that's what people want. Maybe they just want to be alone.
Nation of hermits,
But that's what it seems
like
like.
Grizzly Adams.
No, we don't need more Grizzly Adams. I don't
Bowling
think.
alone.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, it's so bizarre.
Well, I mean, and Wesley's or Wesleyan soteriology, where your salvation is actually not about being correct, even in all matters of doctrine, frankly, because we don't know for sure who's correct. Right? I think, for example, those who have a high Calvinistic view of the definition of predestination, as it's used in Scripture, are wrong. But I also think that some of them might be going to heaven, so
At least a few.
a few, right? So all that to say, you clearly can be wrong on some political level, whatever that means, and still have a heart that is right in terms of love. And you can definitely be right in terms of political things and have a heart that is wrong.
Absolutely.
And so one of those people's going to hell, even though they're correct, and the other one is going to heaven, even though they're wrong. So, just to say, our soteriology means it's what is most important in any trial in this life is to love your neighbor and your enemy as yourself. And certainly election season, especially if you live in a swing state, which, thank you, Jesus, I do not, is a trial. Only because if you're in a swing state, you are bombarded. It's full court press all the time.
Well, every time I think YouTube is trying to get me to buy YouTube Premium with no commercials, because literally every time I put a video on, Sherrod Brown said XYZ.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, and it is getting crazy. So normally you can, when you're going to use, at least our experience has been heretofore, that if you need to use a YouTube video that is a worship song and you put it in a slide, it won't play an ad. And our worship leader 2 Sundays ago was got sick, couldn't make it last minute. And so we were like, okay, we'll put these in. You could not get it to play without an ad, and that was a political ad.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Sherrod Brown likes to drown puppies in acid.
That's right. Merino.
Now let's worship.
So I had to say, you know what? We are singing a cappella today. That is just what we're doing. So, and we did. And guess what? We worshiped Jesus.
It was fine.
It was fine.
Okay.
The world kept spinning.
So, shall we go through these? Just unpack them a little bit.
Let's unpack.
Yeah.
First, to vote without fee or reward for the person they judged most worthy.
Yeah. Okay. So don't accept bribes.
But I mean, ironically, of course, that is kind of what political candidates on all sides are basically, policy-wise trying to do to some degree.
It's certainly become that. I mean,
you don't have to pay taxes on tips. Well, you're trying to get a certain demographic to vote for you.
Well, you know what's interesting? Well, whatever. I have thoughts about that particular policy, mostly just because a ton of restaurants there's a move in the restaurant industry to do away with tips and to just pay hourly wage,
which is Europe and
also
fine.
Which is literally what tons of other places do.
But what's going to happen is they're going to increase the prices, and then you'll still be expected to tip.
The tipping culture has gotten out of control, and I say that as a person who is just has worked in service industries for
a long, long time.
Yeah, I was in the airport and I was expected to tip at the kiosk in the duty-free store, and I was like, "What the what? No."
Go buy some certs at the gas station.
Yes.
Would you like to tip?
For what? You make an hourly wage.
Yeah, I bought certs. Did you exert yourself in that process?
Like you took my card. In fact, no, you probably didn't. I held my card the whole time.
Yeah.
And I tapped
This is what
it.
you did.
But
you
back to the point.
98
Sorry.
cents.
I'm sorry.
Not to get in the weeds on any particular political
I know.
issue, but the point being is...
My point is that, political platforms, though, they used to run on issues that were about real understanding of governance and how human beings in society organize themselves. Now, obviously,
when was this?
It was a long, long time ago.
Is this like Plato's Republic
pre-Caesar?
or something?
Yeah.
I know. Even as I said it, I was thinking about Caesar, and I was like, well,
polis.
It is
Yes,
the idealized
yeah.
polis. But I'm having a hard time lately, especially with these election things, because I see so many like troubling philosophical underpinnings. I mean, the way we govern is important, and the decisions we make have implications. And for how we value life, for how we value, work. I mean,
They are important. It's not okay just to go, whoever you vote for, it's fine.
yeah.
Because these decisions matter, and it's not like we don't have moral convictions about things.
Yeah.
But to separate yourself, to break relationship with people because they disagree with you about how to reach the common good,
Yeah, that's weird.
or what the common good involves, is probably not in keeping with Christian practice.
Yes,
You're
right.
It is not a result of the Holy Spirit
Yes.
influencing your life.
Good job keeping us on the rails there, David. Okay.
It's more like your YouTube algorithms.
Which are probably controlled by not your sanctified self. Honestly.
Depends on the day.
I think this is actually a serious issue because it does mean that you have to examine yourself.
That's right.
Right? Am I voting because candidate X promised me that they will institute something that will make my particular life better, but may actually make the common good worse, right?
Yeah.
So what of course we don't always know that, but still, at least the point being is when you vote, you should think about how am I going to love my neighbor as myself.
All right. To speak no evil of the person they voted against.
Boy, that's a hard one, I think, in our culture these days.
I mean, I think everybody's jumped that shark.
Speaking evil of someone,
yeah.
actually saying this
evil.
person is...
Okay. I don't think I've ever said that. Out there.
Out there in the
Yeah.
radio land and TV land.
Yeah.
Everyone's a fascist on the other side, right? I mean, it's like...
That's my favorite trope.
It's all fascism.
Yeah, it's all fascism.
They're all brown shirts.
Meanwhile, we're all out sipping our lattes and buying our Mac computers, and I'm just like, God, where do you see? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, I don't, but again, imputing motive on someone else's policy decisions, as in they are clearly evil and demonic and have nothing but the destruction of all things good in the world, is a little bit probably not good for your soul.
No, it's not good for your soul.
Maybe they've just been too influenced by YouTube algorithms.
It's entirely possible.
That could be.
But I mean, I think it's always good to remember that the degree to which you offer judgment against someone is then measured against you.
That's right.
So
Pressed down and overflowing.
Yeah. Maybe hold back on that one. So
Maybe so. So speak no evil of the person they voted against. So if you're voting for Trump, speak no evil against Harris. If you're voting for Harris, speak no evil against Trump. It sounds funny even to say those things because they're so outside the realm.
Yes.
They seem so outside the realm of possibility right now.
I know. Well, I don't understand why people talk about who they vote for at all in this culture. Like, just study the issues, vote, move on with your life.
Because they want to influence.
Sure. Yeah.
Everybody on the planet seems right now to want to be an influencer. So
It's highly seems terrible to me.
It does, but we should all talk about the candidates we don't like in political campaign voices. Like political ad voices.
No thanks.
John Doe wants to put women in men's locker rooms. Like, why are you speaking that way?
Like everything is a movie advertisement for like a new movie that's coming out on Halloween.
Or some thriller, some spy thriller,
It's just so weird. I often wonder, well, anyway, related to political ads, when I was in school, they started to teach media literacy. And that was way back in the 1900s, as some young people like to say.
Wait, you lived in the 1900s?
So
How
hurtful.
old are you?
Hurtful.
Is it? I don't feel hurt at all by that. I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm sane.
You're from the last century.
Yes, I'm a dinosaur.
Yes,
But
before our brainwaves were completely corrupted by social media.
But it's fascinating to me, like, do you think that people are really influenced by that? Like that,
By what?
Candidate X wants to blow up your mom's dog.
They're spending a lot of money thinking that people are.
Maggie Ulmer wants to bribe people on the other side to vote for RFK Jr.
No, I don't. So it's so bizarre. Like,
I think people are very influenced by these. Otherwise, they wouldn't spend millions of dollars on them.
Yeah.
I guess that's true. Did you see the AI thing of
No.
after the hurricane? I know you didn't, but so it was like
Yes,
a little
I did.
holding-
Oh my gosh!
What are we talking about?
It's the saddest picture in the whole world.
It's
like
a little girl.
AI make the saddest picture in the whole world, it did.
It's a little girl holding a puppy.
Of course she is.
And she's like, clearly the ravages of Hurricane Helene are behind her. The street is flooded. She's in a rescue raft alone.
And she's got
Alone?
Yeah.
How did a little child manage to climb into a rescue raft
like
alone?
as if the photographer were sitting in close proximity to her, and
she has sad eyes, and the puppy has
sad eyes. It's all just
Do they
sad.
have the same eyes?
and so
Did
many
AI just like duplicate the eyes for the dog? and
so
the
many
girl?
people were like, this picture should win a Pulitzer. This picture should be picture of the year on Time magazine. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, this is fake.
And you can kind of look at it and tell it's fake.
100%.
It's like the features are a little too exaggerated.
Yes.
It's all a little too cute.
I'll have to look this up.
Yeah, definitely look it up.
You for sure should.
Just look up
AI
fake girl puppy flood.
All right, I'm doing it right now.
So my question is, why do we need AI generated pictures of things that are legitimately tragic?
They're not tragic enough, Maggie, without the AI.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just, first of all, I was a little flummoxed that people thought the picture was real.
Same.
But then I did ask the question, who made this and why?
Yes. To me, these two things are connected. Like these campaign ads where it's like, why do we need to like make the emotional pitch of every single solitary thing happening at 110? Why?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's sick.
So let's talk for a moment about the nature of...
I think it looks pretty real, actually. I wouldn't have necessarily known that was not a real picture.
Oh, probably just means I spend more time on the internet.
It's just because I have the gift of discernment.
Yes, you do, for sure.
So let's talk about
Moving on.
evil speaking. Because for Wesley, evil speaking, he has a whole sermon on evil speaking.
Yeah.
And so evil speaking is not saying, I disagree with candidate X because of these reasons.
Yeah.
Evil speaking is defaming, it's character assassination, it's gossiping, it's that kind of thing. It's slandering. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with identifying problems with particular platforms, particular policies that are being proposed or the lack thereof, and talking about those things. That's not evil speaking. Disagreement is not evil speaking.
Yeah.
Rational argument is not evil speaking. Evil speaking is generally, however, what one finds on Twitter/X.
Well, and the text that he's preaching on is Matthew 18, where it's like, if your brother sins against you,
Yeah.
go to, everything needs to be done transparently. Everything needs to be done with the knowledge of the person you disagree with. You're not,
Yeah.
going behind their back and trying to convince others that this is a bad person.
Right. Okay, so
Would certainly change our political environment were that followed.
I don't see that becoming a widespread practice in the near future. But maybe the people called Methodists can model it.
I
That would
mean,
be-
we modeled it at General Conference.
No, we did do that.
Yeah, we really did.
Yeah, it was good.
There was a lot of honor.
At the GMC General Conference.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I was like, not in most of the general conferences I've been to.
Well, you really got to check this new kind out.
Okay.
It was good.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, to take care their spirits were not sharpened against those that voted on the other side.
Also something that I fear has
Soteriological.
been lost for most people.
And about your salvation.
Yeah.
If you let your, what was it, spirit or soul?
Spirit.
Be sharpened against somebody, you're in danger of not loving them.
To
Don't
me,
have a sharp spirit.
yeah, to me this speaks of bitterness. And I think we underestimate the damage that bitterness can do inside of a person. And I mean, I think it's in Matthew, in the you have heard it said, thou shalt not murder. I say, don't even have anger in your heart.
Right.
So it's serious. It's we have to have a larger view of God's work in the world, his sovereignty and presence in the world. Like, elections cannot be the thing that our trust, hope, faith, all that stuff rides and dies on.
Right.
However, unfortunately, so I just wrote a little Substack, and on one of these I was talking about Tillich's understanding of what religion is. Okay? For Tillich, religion is ultimate concern. And I think in some ways that's a very interesting definition of religion. What is your ultimate concern? You might be a church-going Christian, but Jesus Christ and the God who sent him to us or became him for us is not your ultimate concern. And I think for a lot of people today, their ultimate concern, hence their religion, is politics.
Yeah.
It is what they are most concerned with.
That's true.
You don't see people sitting around reading the Bible 12 hours a day, but you do see people engaging in politics, watching TV, reading, listening to podcasts, doing all that 12 hours a day.
That's true.
And 12 hours. That's a lot.
Well, I think
I'm just trying to think.
The point is most people are
how
awake.
would I get anything done?
Yeah, well, but we're consuming content all the time.
That's right. So I think a good question for Christians to ask is, what is your ultimate concern? Is your ultimate concern politics, or is your ultimate concern Christ?
Well, and is your ultimate concern the organization of life in this age, or is your ultimate concern that age and the resurrection of the dead? Because if your ultimate concern is the age to come, then that will have implications for how you live your life in this age, which includes, if you're in a democracy, voting. But it's a very different thing if you think about my ultimate concern is what happens in this age.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, and this is one of the dangers, of course, in our current political climate, that having an election go the quote wrong unquote way becomes some sort of existential threat.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that politics isn't important or that elections don't matter. No one's saying that.
Yeah.
They do matter, and
Mm-hmm.
politics is important, and we should take the process seriously and educate ourselves and get engaged in these kinds of things. But that can't, if you're a Christian, that can't be your ultimate concern.
Yeah, and I think to Scott's point, when we're talking about existential threats, I mean, ideally Christians don't have too many existential threats.
Hopefully you have none, because
Yeah.
you have died with Christ and been raised with
yeah,
him, and
that's
therefore
what I'm trying to say.
they can't kill you. So, and no election is going to change who's actually Lord.
Yeah. And also, I mean, again, and this is not to diminish everybody should pray and vote according to how they feel led and understand the situation. But, you know, we often, I think, human beings, we have such a small view of the larger cosmic activity that's happening in the life of God. And, you know, we don't understand everything that's happening. We don't understand why things are going the way they're going. So, I mean, you know, God has his reasons why certain things happen and don't happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And elections are part of that too.
So we do want Christians to be engaged to the extent they feel led to do so.
Yeah.
But we don't want their engagement to divide the church.
Mm-mm.
We don't want their engagement to break friendships. We don't want their engagement to separate families. And so we have to remember that, yes, politics is important, but Jesus Christ is our ultimate concern, and our commitment to him supersedes all our other commitments. And go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what do you guys think about the argument that if Christ is permanently Lord, which of course he is, and that this age is passing away, that it's a legitimate thing, even if you live in a democracy, to just say, I'm not participating in this.
I don't like that approach.
I know you don't. That's why I want to hear you speak about it. I'm less averse to that position. I don't hold it personally, but
because what happens in this world really does matter still. I mean, yes, there is the age to come, and the age to come is eternal, and this is temporary, but Jesus still instructs us to care for people and to take care of the poor and to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and render unto God what is God's. And so this world does matter. It does matter. It doesn't matter ultimately, but it does matter. And if it's important to Jesus, if it's important to God, then it needs to be important to us.
I think many of the, some of the Anabaptist traditions would say that they still care for their neighbor. They still render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and they don't render to Caesar the things that are God's.
But politics is just a way of engaging, of doing that. Politics can work for the common good. I mean, imagine if we didn't have, politics is not great, but what is the alternative? The alternative is chaos, anarchy.
Tribalism.
No, there's never been a community of people that didn't have a polity, that didn't have a polis,
But
where
it
they
can
organize
It
themselves.
can have a bad one, though.
Right. I mean, most of them in the history of the universe have been tyrannical. But were we to live in such a thing, we would say, imagine the opportunity to vote is taken away. Apparently, either one of these candidates wins, and thus this is the last election. So if that's reality, Christianity's not going to stop. God's plan for the universe isn't going to stop.
That's true.
Jesus is still coming back to judge the living and the dead.
I probably am somewhere between the two. I probably lean a little more towards, I don't hold that position. I'm not entirely bothered by it, but generally speaking, I feel like, duty ethics aren't the worst thing in the world, like feeling a sense of duty to do good at every level of engagement. Like, I benefit from the civic government, so I feel a personal responsibility to sort of engage and sort of say, yeah, let me go and exercise my right to vote, because I also benefit from the governance.
But again, just going back to a previous conversation, it's not about you.
100%.
Right?
I'm just talking about
your benefit is not what's important.
I understand. What I'm saying is I don't of course I see that I can love my neighbor in a multitude of ways. I'm saying that as an act of understanding that I receive from society, that one of the ways I can then also give back is through engaged participation at some level. So it's not like because this benefits me, I'll do it. I'm saying I understand I've received, so then I will return by also participating at some level. Now, I have a lot of boundaries around that, because I don't think that every form of participation in civic society is beneficial to my soul, or is beneficial necessarily to
other people's
souls. And so I also think about how my engagement is modeled for the people around me. So I don't know. That's kind of where I fall there, I think.
And I do vote. It's not. I'm
well,
not saying.
Yeah,
but
you said it wasn't a position you hold.
Yeah, but I just think there is I can at least sympathize with the position that, look, I've become a Christian. I am a subject in Christ's kingdom.
Yeah.
The kingdoms of this world will do what they want, and there's never a way to participate in them without sinning, because they're so full of deception that it's better to not participate and trust Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I've met so many Gen Z who have never voted, don't have an interest in voting. Like, I'm like, really?
Well, good. No, sorry.
No, I mean, I want some of them to vote. But I mean, I've voted, I think, in pretty much every election since I turned 18. And so, but for the first time in the last few years, I've seriously thought, like, okay, should I not vote? And not because I necessarily couldn't figure out who to vote for or something like that, but I just was so sort of like at odds with everything that I saw presented. I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I get that. But I would, I guess I sort of line up with the critical realists or Christian realists, who want to say, yes, the structures of this world are fallen. Yes, we do participate in fallen structures when we participate in politics. But for the common good, that's what we have to do. We have to make the best out of this situation that we have for the common good, because otherwise people who don't have the interest of the common good in mind will take advantage of those power structures and use them in ways that are evil.
I don't know.
You do, or you wouldn't vote,
No, I just mean the idea that if we don't participate, then the powers of evil will take advantage of political structures to use them to negative ends. Well, yes, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, it happens on all sides.
And in some sense, we're just co-opted into it.
I mean, yeah, it does happen, but we work within these imperfect systems to do the best we can. I mean, the world is not perfect. We know that. There's no part of it that's perfect. The church is not perfect. I know. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, Maggie.
Right. At least the institutional church. The church as the communion of saints on earth is holy. Yeah. Those who are in Christ. Unfortunately, institutional churches are made up of sheep and wolves, generally speaking. Or at least historically, they always have been. Maybe we'll get it right one day. We'll see.
Well, friends, this has been a conversation.
If you could call it that.
It's been that, I think we can say.
Pray for me. And that's been our episode for today. Thank you so much for listening. And we're praying for you, and pray for us as we all venture through this political season, and grateful for Wesley and his wisdom, as always. So like and subscribe to the podcast. Share it. It helps people find us, and we'll come back to you in the next conversation. Bye.
Bye.